What do you do when you need to be seen, but have nothing designed to help you get noticed? No radio, no phone, no signal flare, just you, and, well, whatever happens to be around you. This is where one of the oldest and most overlooked survival skills comes into play: improvised signalling flags. For centuries, and especially during wartime, people relied on simple visual signals to communicate across distance. In World War II, when radios failed or silence was required, soldiers often turned to basic, improvised signalling methods to send messages, mark positions, or call for help. Today, we're bringing that knowledge back. Because in a real survival situation, the ability to attract attention, communicate clearly, and be understood from a distance can make the difference between being rescued or being missed entirely. Why signalling matters more than you think? Many people focus on food, water and shelter, and yes, those are critical. But in a real emergency, especially if rescue is possible, your priority shifts. You don't just need to survive. You need to be found. History has shown that people can survive for days, even weeks, but still go unnoticed because they failed to signal effectively. Improvised signalling flags solve that problem. They give you a way to communicate across distance, mark your location, attract attention without sound, and send simple, clear messages. And best of all, they require no specialized equipment. The core principle, really, is visibility over complexity. A signalling flag doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be visible. Back in World War II, effective signals were simple: bold colours, clear movement, strong contrast. The same principles apply today. If your signal blends into the background, it fails. If it stands out, it works. Choosing the right materials is your first step. When creating an improvised signalling flag, look for anything that has colour, can move in the wind, is lightweight, and can be elevated. Common materials include clothing, like shirts, jackets or bandanas, cloth scraps, plastic bags, pieces of tarp, and bright packaging materials. Even dull-coloured items can work if you increase contrast or movement. The goal isn't perfection, it's visibility. Right then, let's talk about what works best when it comes to colour selection for signalling. You see, colour plays a major role in getting noticed. Back in the Second World War, bright and contrasting colours were the go-to choice, mainly because they could be seen from really long distances. The best colours, in my experience, are bright red, orange, yellow, and of course white, especially if you're in darker environments. But here's the key thing: contrast actually matters more than the colour itself. For example, a white flag stands out beautifully in a dark forest, while a dark flag is much easier to spot against snow or sand. So, always consider your background. Ask yourself, will this stand out here? Does it break the natural pattern? If the answer is yes, well, you're definitely on the right track. Now, let's move on to elevation, getting seen from a distance. A flag left on the ground, well, it's just too easy to miss, but a flag up in the air, that's what really gets noticed. Elevation is honestly one of the most important factors in effective signalling. During World War II, soldiers would often place their signals on poles, on elevated terrain, or up on rooftops and high points. You can do the same, using tree branches, long sticks or poles, or any elevated terrain like hills or ridges. The higher your signal, the greater your visibility. Simple as that. Even a simple bit of cloth tied to a branch becomes far more effective when it's raised up. Let's talk a bit about movement, the secret to visibility. Still, objects are just too easy to overlook, but moving objects, well, they attract attention. That's exactly why flags work so well. They move with the wind. And if there's not much wind, don't worry, you can create movement yourself. Shake the flag every now and then, wave it when you spot potential observers, or attach it loosely so it flutters easily. Movement breaks up visual patterns and really draws the eye. In many cases, it's movement that turns a hidden object into a visible signal. So, size matters. Bigger is definitely better. You see, small signals just get lost out there, while large signals really stand out. Back in the Second World War, large visual markers were often used because they could be seen from aircraft or from long distances. You should always aim to make your signal as large as possible. There are a few ways to increase the size. You can combine multiple pieces of cloth, spread your material out instead of bunching it, or create wide shapes rather than narrow ones. Even if you only have small materials, grouping them together will increase your visibility. Remember, large signals stand out, and even with limited resources, you can make a difference by maximizing the size of your signal. Signal placement. Think like the observer. To be effective, your signal must be placed where it can be seen, plain and simple. This means you really need to think from the perspective of the person you want to reach. Ask yourself, where would someone be looking from? What direction are they approaching? What areas are most visible from a distance? Good placement includes open areas, clearings, hilltops, or spots near water. You want to avoid placing signals where they can be blocked by trees, rocks, or the terrain itself. At the end of the day, visibility is everything. Right, let's talk about simple signal codes you can use. Back during the Second World War, simple visual signals were often relied upon to communicate basic messages. You really don't need complex systems, just clear, consistent signals that everyone understands. For example, waving a flag continuously usually means attention or distress, while raising and lowering it signals acknowledgement. Just holding it still can mark your position. If you're working with others, make sure to agree on what each signal means ahead of time. Honestly, clarity matters far more than complexity here. Now, when it comes to ground-to-air signaling, say if you think there's a chance of aircraft or drones passing overhead, your strategy needs to change a bit. In the war, large ground signals were used to communicate with aircraft. You can do something similar by arranging cloth, making markings on the ground, or creating large shapes or symbols. Remember, from above, all the detail disappears, but shape and contrast remain clear as day. Now, let's say you're in a low-resource situation. What if you've got almost nothing? No bright colours, no cloth, nothing obvious. You can still signal. Just use what's available. Arrange rocks or branches to create patterns, disturb the ground to make some contrast, or even use shadows to your advantage. Even small changes in the environment can make a visible signal if you do it right. The key here is creativity. Now, let's talk about camouflage versus signalling, knowing when to be seen. This is actually really important. Sometimes you want to stay hidden. Other times, you want to be seen. Good fieldcraft is about knowing the difference. During the war, soldiers often switched between concealment and signalling, depending on what the situation called for. Signal when it helps you, and stay hidden when it doesn't. Timing your signals can make all the difference. Signalling when no one's around just wastes your energy. Instead, signal when you hear or see potential rescuers, make your signals more visible during daylight, and use movement when there are observers nearby. Smart timing makes your efforts much more efficient. Now, once your flag or signal is set up, don't forget about it. Check it regularly. Ask yourself, is it still visible? Has it shifted or fallen over? Is it still effective in the current conditions? Weather, wind and time can all reduce its effectiveness. You need to maintain your signal just like any other survival tool. Some common mistakes to avoid: using colours that blend in, placing signals too low, making them too small, forgetting about background contrast, not using movement, or putting your signal in a blocked area. Avoid these pitfalls, and your signalling will be far more effective. Training this skill is absolutely vital. Like all survival skills, signalling gets better the more you practice. Try creating signals using limited materials, test their visibility from a distance, and experiment with different placements. The more you practice, the better you'll understand what really works. Now, a few final thoughts. Improvised signalling flags are simple, but they're incredibly powerful. They don't need advanced tools or technology, just awareness, a bit of creativity, and a good grasp of the basic principles. Visibility, contrast, movement, placement, these are your foundations. In a real survival situation, being seen can be just as important as staying alive. Because honestly, survival isn't just about enduring, it's about being found. If you take anything away from this, remember, you don't need perfect equipment to signal effectively. You just need to think clearly, use what you have, and make yourself impossible to ignore. If you value practical survival knowledge and timeless skills that actually work, be sure to subscribe and share this video with someone who understands that sometimes the simplest tools are the most powerful.